And the Safety Act basically revolves around getting rid of the cash bail system. And conservatives have been going off. The propaganda machine is in full effect. They're telling anybody and everybody who will listen that this is going to cause thousands of criminals to be released out into the streets, that this is a terrible thing for Chicago. It's going to make all of us less safe. It's just absolutely bananas how crazy they're going about this. But I have some very specific thoughts about why this is happening. But first, I want to hear from you, Hudson. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, like you said there, the conversation is centering around the bail and specifically about the bail, the type of offenses that people think that um, folk are just going to be let just basically they think the whole system's going to be a revolving door. There's rumors that they think that you could physically assault someone and just get a ticket for it. Like these rumors that are going around about this um, are just ridiculous, right? And it's all propaganda. And like you said, Samari, it's centered around this cash bail, but it has nothing to do with the cash bail. It really doesn't. It's the easiest thing that they can use, these conservatives can use to scare the bejesus out of you. I mean,
So,
that's the easiest thing they can use.
So I agree with you that at the end of the day, this is all about fear. And it's also about convincing people that conservative and Republican leadership is more serious about crime. And that's why you should vote for us and put us into power, because essentially these liberals and these Democrats have gone soft and they're just going to let criminals run wild through your streets. But I disagree with you. I definitely feel like the cash bail is actually a central point of this, and that it has a lot of conservatives concerned. So first, let's walk through, why is this bill necessary? It's necessary because across the state, you have an issue where people, mainly brothers and sisters, mainly minorities, let's just be honest, um, will get locked up for oftentimes frivolous charges, oftentimes for things that as soon as they get in front of a judge, it's going to be thrown out. But they have to sit in jail and wait until they're actually able to get in front of a judge, because they have to post bail in order to get out. So essentially, how long you sit in jail is determined by how much money you have. So this has created a situation where jail cells can just fill up with people who are not there for real offenses. They're not there for things that are actually a problem. They're not a threat to anybody. They're not on their way to prison. They're just waiting to get in front of a judge so that their case can be thrown out and they can move on with their lives, and they're forced to sit there. This bill is going to address that. It's going to basically say how much money you have. It's not going to determine whether or not you have to sit in a jail cell for months, potentially, waiting to get in front of a judge. Now, why does this bill scare conservatives? Of course, they've used this as an opportunity to fear monger, and they've done a great job of that. But why are they afraid? They're afraid because counties across the state have used the bail system in Illinois to prop up their budgets. Many counties in this state will take a percentage of your bail off top. So, regardless of what happens, you don't get all your money back. Almost all of the counties have at least some mechanism in place where if you miss a court date or if some technicality is not met, they get to just hold the bail money that you've paid in order to get yourself up out of jail. And so they're counting on people to essentially have to pay this money, and then they can take it and use it to fund their schools, fund their little sheriff's office. These people's salaries require this bail system to be in place. So by taking that system away, essentially you're telling all of these counties, hey, you've got to figure out how to balance your budgets without imprisoning people on frivolous bullshit. And it's scaring the crap out of them. It's absolutely terrifying these people because they have never had to be in this situation before. The prison industrial complex in this country has only gotten larger and larger and larger. So to be in this particular situation where they're not able to gain more money from imprisoning people and holding people is something a lot of these folks have never had to do. And it scares the shit out of them. And it's why I am such a big fan of this bill.
So, from my perspective, and this is why I don't believe the bail part to really be, maybe there's a county here or there, or a township here and there who would see that as something that they're worried about. But when you look at different sections of this Safety Act,
Mhm.
this is to me what they're most concerned about. And these are the things that they're not mentioning that they want to overturn here, um, such as the standards for use of force and officers being required to intervene if they see another officer using excessive force.
Mhm.
There's no more blank checks on military grade equipment, because at this point they can get any type of military equipment they want without any real oversight. No more with this bill. Specific guidelines on the use of body cameras, along with a class 3 felony if you willingly and knowingly keep it off or turn it off,
Mhm.
right? It also allows for us as citizens to file complaints without sworn affidavits. And the use of the sworn affidavit has been a long-standing thing with police departments to deter people from filing complaints, because with a sworn affidavit, that brings a whole host of problems that could come back to you as the person complaining, right?
Mhm.
So and it doesn't stop there. We're talking about prison system reforms. We're talking about all types of, and when we talk about prison system reforms, we're talking about the real money then.
Mhm.
Now we're not just talking about the cash bail. The cash bail is a drop in the bucket compared to the prison system money that they get,
Mhm.
and would see a whole big overhaul. So there are tons of things in this whole deal that they do not want, and they don't want us to even consider it. They don't want us to know about it. They just want us to think that we're just about to let a bunch of prisoners, a bunch of, never mind that we're just assuming all these people are guilty and we don't want them on the street, but we just want everybody to concentrate on, they're just going to let people who've assaulted folks just come right out. That's all they want us to concentrate on. That's why they want us to concentrate on that cash bail, because it's easier for them to manipulate it. While on the back end, this is the stuff they want to make sure does not happen, right? If it was only cash bail, if it was only that, I say, okay, change that. See what happens. They're still not going to want that. They're still going to fight hard against this, because there's all that other stuff that they do not want in there.
I absolutely agree that they're afraid of all of it. Absolutely. I just feel like the cash bail absolutely has a significant impact on these small counties who are not sure how they're going to balance their budgets without it. But absolutely, they don't want, they certainly don't want it to be harder for the police to lock folks up. And they absolutely don't want a situation where the police are not going to be held accountable or are now going to be held accountable if they actually see abuses and don't intervene. I have no issues with that
Well, the
whatsoever.
police
I just
departments
don't
are a
believe.
big part of the GOP base. The
Mhm.
police departments, historically have always been a GOP base that they depend on to help campaign for them, to help be out there for them in the front lines. Heck, how
Hmm.
many of them were involved in that little stunt at the January 6th insurrection? How many of those FOP and GOP police officers were there?
Hmm. Yeah, I think what's been really kind of frustrating for me is, being a content creator now. I'm on YouTube a lot more, looking at other people's content, and the amount of black people who just fall for the okey doke.
Hmm.
Bunch of white folks say this is something you should be afraid of. This is terrible for black communities, and you got this whole long line of black folks who are lining up saying, "Hey, you need to be scared of this. This safety act, oh, it's going to be terrible for you." It's like, bro, like we are in 2022. How long does it take for you to realize just because a white man with a badge gets in front of the camera and spouts a bunch of nonsense, it doesn't mean that you have to actually eat it hook, line, and center and
Hmm.
sinker and just decide that you're going to regurgitate it now on your platform as fact. It's frustrating to watch, man. It's frustrating to watch.
Well, let me let's start knocking down some of these. So one of the biggest things is this list of non-detainable offenses that's going around the internet.
Hmm.
First off, those list of offenses that they have there, that is not true at all. Those are not non-detainable offenses. Here's what certain low-level crimes will be issued citations as opposed to taken to jail. We're talking about shoplifting a loaf of bread. That they're not going to bother taking someone to jail for that. Now, these are the types of low-level crimes we're talking about. Okay.
Imagine sitting in jail because you shoplifted something simply because you don't have enough money to bail yourself out.
Yeah.
Like for an
And
extended period of time, not for a night, not for a couple of days, sitting in jail for an extended period of time for nonsense just because you are poor.
yeah, we're talking about non-violent offenses here, right? And the person who couldn't afford bread is certainly not going to be able to, like you say, post bail. So they're just going to be sitting there. Not to mention, in under the old system, how long would they be there until somebody even, before you even saw a judge for bail, for
Mhm.
consideration for bail? Under this new law, supposedly, I believe it's going to be within 3 days they have to see a judge. So we'll see how that works. But you know, I mean, all the way around, this is a better system. So that's the first thing. There's no such thing with these list of offenses of violent offenses that they're non-detainable. What
The
actually happens is they just take the bail part out. But there's other ways they could still hold them and say if they think you're a flight risk, if they think you're still a danger to someone. So the judges still have the option to hold you in prison. Plus, they can put you on electronic monitoring. Okay, there's a host of things that they can do with this. Okay.
and just to be clear, when a judge decides that someone is a flight risk is actually a very broad legal term. Like it's not like the judge has to have a whole lot of good reasons to say you're a flight risk. We got to hold you. Like that's something they could do broadly and unilaterally. Just like, hey, I don't want to see you going back outside. You're a flight risk. We're going to hold on to you. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. Republicans and conservatives, they're basically trying to present it as, well, if you don't have this bail system, there's no way to hold these people. That's not based
Yeah.
in reality.
Most anybody can get a Greyhound ticket.
Come on now. Come
Yeah,
on now.
there's your flight right there. So,
Hmm.
I mean, most anybody can do that. Heck, I can walk across the Indiana border right now.
Hmm.
I could go walk there and I'm
Hmm.
gone. So,
Hmm.
most anybody's a flight risk,
Come on now.
right? What's the other thing? Here's for they call it the purge law, right? Because supposedly now, since you're not held because of bail, you're going to be out here committing crimes left and right up until it's time for you to go in front of the judge.
Mhm.
First off, you're responsible for any crimes you commit while you're out on the street, whether you're awaiting a trial or not. Just like you're responsible for any crimes you commit in jail while you're waiting on a trial. Okay, so that's first off. So it's not like you have freedom like in the purge where you have freedom for a certain amount of time to do crimes. You do not have the freedom to do that. You're still held to the standard of the law. Secondly, if everybody who was out on bail or not held in jail before their trial started committing crimes like in the purge, we'd all be running for our lives already. Okay, there's plenty of people that's been let out on their own recognizances who have posted bail and they are out on the street. Okay, so
Absolutely.
if we were going to be living in that world, we're already there. Okay, and here's the other thing these suburban towns have to realize is that they keep saying that they're just going to make us lawless just like Chicago is. Chicago has all this military grade equipment. They have it all. Okay.
Mhm.
They have all these ball buster cops who come around and knock heads all day long. Okay. They have all these officers that are denying our civil rights,
Come on now.
right? And are basically locking us up for nothing. We have tons of people getting locked up every day for nothing. The crime is still here. None of that is deterring the crime. What has deterred the crime in your specific community has been the opportunities that you have out there. And the fact that you have places for your children to go and have constructive time while when they're playing baseball, when they're practicing when they have guitar or piano lessons, when they're practicing karate, when they're doing all this fun stuff that
Art,
kids should be doing,
basketball. Mhm.
and have a constructive day. That is what's keeping your crime down, right? Not the police. They take credit for it, surely, but it is not them keeping your crime down. So make no mistakes that Chicago is doing all this stuff that you think police should be doing, and they are making no headway on this crime whatsoever.
And just to be clear, um, I think we need to hammer home the message. It's really not the responsibility of the police to make sure your child is not out there shooting people up, knocking people upside the head, and taking things from them. The community has to be willing to step up. The
Mhm.
community has to be willing to get involved and talk to their kids and be involved with their kids. I get sick and tired of black folks screaming and crying about the police need to do more. There needs to be more police because you don't want to be bothered to talk to a child that's not your own. We
Mm.
Nothing will change. Nothing will change in our communities until we are finally at the point where we're willing to show empathy and consideration towards kids who are not our own. These kids are walking around with no daddies, with
Mhm.
they got deadbeat daddies, but they got deadbeat baby mamas as well who are technically they live with them. Technically, these mamas are raising them, but they're not really raising them. These kids need
Yep.
help. They need mentors. They need adult supervision. They need adults who actually care. And all too often, adults in the community now wasn't this way 30, 40 years ago, but now they're only concerned with their own kids. They're only
Yeah.
concerned with what goes on their house, and anything outside of this they want nothing to do with. And
Mm.
then when somebody from outside your home shoots one of the children inside your home, you want to get on the mic and complain and talk about how terrible everything is when you spent years doing nothing about it. We have to
Yeah.
decide collectively that there is a responsibility to lift each other up and make things better.
If we
The
keep
police are
ignoring our
not going to
community,
solve this.
it's just going to keep going in the wrong direction. We can't keep ignoring our community. If you're not even willing to speak to the people in your own block,
Come on now.
I see it all the time. Pass by people on your own block won't even speak,
Mhm.
right? Won't speak to the young adults that live right down the street to you, right down the street from you. What do you expect?
Come on now. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. So, but yeah, a lot of propaganda going on around this. Bottom line, I think me and Hudson are both of the same mind that this bill is actually good for the city. And
Yeah.
it's something that absolutely we should support. And we need to fight back against all this false propaganda. that's trying to delude people into believing that it's Armageddon. Like, no, it's only Armageddon for the people who have spent decades hating us and trying to tear us down.